Yo, what's going on guys, Arekkz here and welcome back to another Destiny video. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about a couple of different things. First of all, this week's This Week at Bungie just dropped, and while it doesn't include any awesome Rise of Iron information just yet, it does shed a bit more light on when we can expect to see Trials of Osiris and Iron Banner return. And the second thing I want to speak about is an interview with Scott Taylor, the executive producer on Rise of Iron, that showed up on, believe it or not, Playboy's website of all places, but it actually contains some rather interesting information. So I figured I'd turn this video into a bit of a news roundup. So if you guys do enjoy this, then a like would be super appreciated, and comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Now to begin with, let's start with This Week at Bungie. It seems the problems surrounding players joining both Trials of Osiris and Iron Banner was a result of the new Players in Activity feature not having a cap for people with large number of friends. However, they deployed a hotfix today that should fix the issue. Assuming it does work as intended, then Bungie said that Trials of Osiris could return as early as tomorrow, but they will need to do some final tests once the update has gone live to ensure that it's all good. And assuming that all of that goes to plan, then they also may reschedule Iron Banner to drop next week instead. Again, we'll get final confirmation soon, but things are looking up. And besides that, the weekly blog spoke about the reasons behind the Hunter nerfs with some rather fancy graphs, as well as the other stuff you've usually come to expect. So if you do want to read all of that in depth, then you can find a link to that in the description box down below. They also said that instead of drip feeding us tiny nuggets of Rise of Iron information, they were going to instead save it up for some quote-unquote appropriately explosive moments throughout the summer. So what that basically means is don't expect to see something every single week, but instead know that when we do get something, it will be pretty sizable. So with that out of the way, let's now move over to this Playboy interview. I will link it down below if you guys want to check it out, but if you do want to avoid going to playboy.com for fear of getting questioned by anyone else that may share the computer with you, then let me tell you everything you need to know. The interview begins with some general chat about Scott, his role on the team, what he's worked on in Destiny in the past, but where it begins to get interesting, not that the beginning isn't interesting, but you know what I mean, where it gets interesting is when he speaks about the narrative progression. The first thing worth pulling out is when he says, quote unquote, "We're also adding in the social space a few new rituals that are going to be tied to our end game, and we haven't done that before either. So we're looking at building a social space as a really fun, interesting challenge because you don't want to replace the tower." Of course, when the follow-up question asks exactly what they mean by rituals, it gets met with the usual, "it's something we're going to talk about later." But the notion of rituals ties nicely in with becoming an Iron Lord, and this Iron Temple. While it seems we won't be getting any new subclasses this time around, at least from what we know right now, it might well be that rituals afford us more options and ways to play. Moving on from there, we get confirmation that following the launch of Rise of Iron, there will be yet more free events similar in size and scope to Festival of the Lost, Sparrow Racing League, Crimson Doubles, etc. They haven't confirmed exactly what they will be, but know that post-launch we can expect a whole load of free updates too. Next up, Infusion. This is actually a question that I asked myself during E3 but didn't get a solid answer on that during my interview, however it has since been expanded on. In short, anything that you acquire in the Taken King and anything that has come out since the launch of the Taken King will be infusible in Rise of Iron. In other words, if you want to, say, hang on to your new Desolate gear, for example, you'll be able to infuse that up to the Rise of Iron light level. Which also explains why we saw 6 Guardians in the new raid segment of the trailer in a mishmash of old and new gear. Moving over to the topic of exotics, when speaking about the Yellowhorn, it seems that the quest to obtain this weapon will be quite the challenge. The interview made reference to the Black Spindle, and while Scott didn't exactly confirm its likeness, the phrasing made it seem like the two could be somewhat comparable. Also, when asking about the exotics we still have yet to see, Scott said that they're not talking about anything other than the Yellowhorn right now, but did say that we will see exotics that nobody has ever seen or heard of before. So whether we do still see the likes of Thagamizers, Shinobu's Vow, etc. on top of the new ones will of course remain to be seen, but know that the Rise of Iron will bring some awesome new exotics that we have never seen before. And finally, when asked if they would bring back the old raids or bring them up to the new light level, the answer was that the focus right now is quite obviously on the new content and the new raid. It's something they speak about in the studio, and there's obviously a lot they can do post-launch like they did with, say, bringing back the Prison of Elders, but right now it's not in the immediate future. So, that is pretty much it. That's all the important stuff from the interview and from This Week at Bungie. Again, if you want to read any of it for yourself, then you can find links down below. But aside from that, thank you very much for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.